Good afternoon, sir. I'm Shailesh from National Defence. Recently, China has launched its autonomous drone mothership, Zhuhai Yun. What kind of challenges it may have thrown to Indian Navy, and does Indian Navy require change in naval doctrine to be in place so that it can cope up with the future warfare? Because recently we have also seen that the Iranian Navy had captured the US sail drone, which is autonomous vessel. So this Chinese vessel would be having drones which would be able to operate land, sea and in air, and could be a research vessel which can also turn a military vessel as per experts. So I want to understand your perspective on this, sir.
The Navy has unveiled a roadmap in 2021 in October by the Honorable Raksha Mantri on unmanned systems. So this happened that time, and then this year during the Swavlamban Seminar itself, we have also unveiled the requirements for the future for the unmanned systems, the technology that we are looking at for the Navy. So this also has been disseminated to the industry. So they are working on it. So we are looking at unmanned, not just aircraft, unmanned surface vessel, unmanned underwater vessels, and so on. Fair amount of work is already in progress. We have also, achieved some success in developing unmanned underwater vessels as well. And drones, you are aware, substantial progress has been made, and we have now tested them for operations from moving platforms at sea. So we are working on the doctrine of manned-unmanned teaming. While unmanned systems are there, and we have been operating unmanned systems like the UAVs for quite some time now, and we have adequate expertise on that. But we are looking at unmanned aerial combat vehicles, and similarly the surface as well as underwater vehicles also will be capable of not just surveillance but carrying out missions including combat. So this is the future, and the Swavlamban Seminar, some of the challenges involved the unmanned systems and as well as manned-unmanned teaming. So this is being progress, and as I said, the roadmap has already been promulgated. The requirements have been given to the industry as well. We are hopeful that we will make headway in this. Now, as to how to exploit them and how to fight the future war, that is what we are studying, and we'll come out with the necessary changes in the way we fight. Vice Chief of Naval Staff, PSOs, officers, friends from the media who are present here, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to this press conference on the occasion of the Navy Day, which is happening tomorrow, the 4th of December. It's a very memorable day for the Navy, highlighting the exploits of a service during the 1971 war, the action by the Navy that led to the decisive victory of the nation. So, a warm welcome to all of you for this press conference. I intend to take a look at the year that has gone by. It's exactly a year plus a few days since I'd taken over as the Chief of Naval Staff, and I'll try and portray some of the key aspects that have been undertaken for the last 1 year. Operationally, we have had a very intense, very engaging time over the last 1 year. Our ships, submarines, aircraft have been deployed extensively, and they have contributed substantially to maintaining the maritime security in the Indian Ocean region. very high operational tempo was achieved over the last 1 year, and we have followed the mission-based deployments, whereby the ships were been deployed at various strategic locations in the ocean, so that they are forward-based and ready to respond to any challenges. So this extensive operational deployment has helped us in many ways. It has helped us to hone our skills, helped us in improving and refining our procedures and processes, and in a sense to keep the sword sharp. Our personnel trained hard, worked very diligently, and performed magnificently both on the surface, under the sea, as well as in the air, over the ocean. The Navy is followed the motto of being a combat-ready, credible, cohesive, and future-proof force, which has been focused through the approach called the ships first approach. Now, in this, we have focused on our operational assets, be it a ship, submarine, or aircraft, so that the people who man them, that is the men and women who man these operational units, are given total support from all the shore organizations, from the headquarters, etc., so that they can do their job well, because they are the people who are at the field, at the cutting edge of the service, and therefore they need to be supported. And this singular aim has been focused in all our efforts, so that when required to go in harm's way, they are fully prepared to do so. While the past year has been operationally busy and very satisfying in many ways, it has also been transformational in a number of aspects. I'll just highlight a few aspects, while the rest of it will get covered in the subsequent presentation. The most notable aspect of this transformation, I would say, was the commissioning of Vikrant. You'll remember this on the 2nd of September, the Vikrant, the first indigenous aircraft carrier, was commissioned at Kochi by our Honorable Prime Minister. So this has been a landmark event, and this signifies the persistent efforts of generations of naval leadership, or designers, or planners, the shipyard workers, industry, and a whole lot of other, supporting agencies and personnel. And I would say that this commissioning of Vikrant is a landmark event for the nation as well as the Navy, and it's indeed a torchbearer of AatmaNirbhar Bharat. There are very few countries who have the capability to make an aircraft carrier, and we now form one of that elite or select band. It inspires confidence in self-confidence amongst us, and I would say it is a shining symbol of our indigenous capability. It has contributed to enhancing the stature of the nation in the world, and we have been getting congratulatory messages from many of the countries as well as the navies, and I am sure Vikrant will proudly fly the Tiranga across the wide reaches of the Indo-Pacific in the years to come. While the commissioning of Vikrant had happened, another important event took place on the same day, at the same dais, which was the unveiling of the new Naval Ensign. Now this was in line with the government policy of doing away or shedding the vestiges of colonial symbols and practices. So we have unveiled the new Naval Ensign. In fact, the new design was by one of our own sailors from a ship which was worked upon, improved, and then promulgated. So this decision to change the ensign was brought in a very swift and decisive manner without any delay, and it reflects the agility and the responsiveness of the Indian Navy as an organization. While talking of this, of the Tiranga, I also want to bring home this point that on the 15th of August this year, we had 7 ships hoisting the Tiranga at ports in 6 continents, which is no mean feat. And this aspect actually reflects the reach, flexibility and sustainability of the naval assets over the areas of interest. Talking of AatmaNirbharta, there has been great focus to deploy our capital in a judicious manner, so that we develop the capabilities that is essential for us. We have fostered R&D in niche technology through the indigenous effort. Now, towards this, we conducted the Swavlamban Seminar, which happened on 18th of July, which was inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister, and we had requested him to put out 75 challenges. The response, I must say, has been stupendous. We got more than 1,000 suo motu proposals as well from the industry, from startups, from new tech companies and so on, out of which nearly 166 of them are getting approved for being taken forward. So very hopeful that this seminar will result in the induction of some cutting edge technology in various aspects in the next year or so. So the aim is to have made in India, made by India and made for India security solutions, so that the Navy can strengthen the move towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. As regards the optimization of the budget, we are driving self-reliance and development of indigenous technology. This year, our Navy's share of the budget was 17.8%, which we feel is quite adequate. And more importantly, in expending this budget, we've been able to manage it quite well, in the sense that the revenue to capital ratio has been maintained at about 32% revenue to 68% capital, which is quite good by any standards. So how does it help us? It helps us in ensuring that we have adequate funding for our capital projects. This gives us tremendous amount of flexibility in looking at new cases and taking forward new capability development plans. Another transformational aspect that I want to highlight here is the Agnipath scheme. Now, the Agnipath scheme has taken shape. It has been implemented, and we are looking at a complete transformation of the manpower, especially in the ranks. The first batch of Agniveers have already reported. About 3,000 Agniveers have joined, out of which about 341 are women. Now, this is a landmark event for us, because this is the first time that the Navy is inducting women sailors. We have been inducting women officers for about last, I would say, 16, 17 years. But this is the first time that we are inducting women sailors. So this is a landmark event for us, and similarly I would say to complement the presence of women officers on board, now we will have these women sailors, and at the same time, come the next year, we are looking at women officers being inducted across all branches, not just the 7 or 8 branches that we have, they are restricted to as of today, but next year onwards it will be open for, all branches will be open for women officers as well. So the Navy, in short, has been constantly trying to make changes, challenging the status quo, and always querying old practices to see how we can be more agile and change with the requirements of the time. The Honorable President is traditionally hosted for Navy Day at the Navy House here in Delhi, but this time, in consonance with the government directives, we have shifted out the main Navy Day celebrations to Vizag. The Honorable President has kindly consented to be the chief guest. So we are having an operational demonstration there, and all the other events connected with the reception, everything will be held at Vizag. We hope many of you will be able to participate in it at Vizag. So this is again a reflection of the Navy's ability to adapt and our commitment to adopting change. So in short, a lot has happened in the last 1 year. I only briefly touched upon a few of those aspects. Details will be covered in the presentation shortly. And once the presentation is over, I will provide my views on a few more of the issues, and that will be followed by a question and answer session.
We conducted various successful weapon firings of missiles and torpedoes encompassing multiple systems. Commissioning of India's first indigenous aircraft carrier Vikrant has been a substantial capability addition. This historic occasion was also marked by a momentous change as we adopted a new Naval Ensign. Additionally, commissioning of a new squadron of long-range maritime patrol aircraft, the P-8I, and 2 squadrons of the Advanced Light Helicopter or ALH, as well as induction of the MH-60R helicopters, have been notable capability enhancers. Further, with the launch of Surat, Udaygiri, Dunagiri, Taragiri, Nistar, Nipun, Nirdeshak, Ikshak, the impending commissioning of Mormugao this month, and substantial progress in trials of Wagir and Wagshir, our force levels are poised for a significant fillip. Our mission-based deployment enhanced Indian Navy's presence across the region, where our ships clocked over 8,000 days at sea this year. Similarly, our submarines were deployed extensively for over 650 days, and our aircraft collectively flew more than 10,000 hours. Credibility. Ladies and gentlemen, to give you an insight into our maritime neighborhood, the Indo-Pacific region, 62% of the world's GDP, 65% of the world's population, 50% of the global trade, and 7 of the top 10 export destinations are here. As far as security is concerned, 9 of the top 10 militaries of the world and 7 of the world's top 10 defense spenders reside in this region, which incidentally is also home to around 100 active conflicts, the most in the world. Therefore, to meet the existing threats and emerging challenges of the maritime domain, the Indian Navy needs to remain a credible maritime power in the region. Towards this, last year, we pursued credibility through enhanced reach, sustenance, deployments, and forward posturing, all of which enabled us to be the first responder, not just for contingencies in our country, but also for our friends and partners in the region. The Indian Navy has remained continuously deployed since 2008 to curb maritime piracy in the Gulf of Aden, with our 101st ship having sailed out just day before yesterday to carry out anti-piracy patrol in that region. At the same time, to ensure security of Indian trade through the Strait of Hormuz, 36 naval ships have been deployed off the strait under the aegis of Ops Sankalp and have escorted 453 Indian flag merchant vessels and 361 lakh tons of cargo since June 2019. In September this year, we also deployed our first unit as an associate support to the combined maritime forces based at Bahrain. In continuation of the successful Mission Sagar series to provide hope and succor, 8 of our ships delivered over 3,800 tons of aid to 15 friendly nations, traversing over 40,000 miles while clocking 215 ship days. As part of this series this year, Mission Sagar 9 and 10 reiterated India's commitment to the region as Indian naval ships provided assistance to 3 friendly foreign countries through transshipment of humanitarian aid and medicines. We also provided technical and humanitarian aid to Sri Lanka, Madagascar, Mozambique, Comoros, Maldives, and Seychelles through a multitude of deployments and activities. The Indian Navy undertook medical evacuations at sea for sailors needing urgent medical help from the German and Iranian navies and the Seychelles Coast Guard, reaffirming the deep trust existing between the Indian Navy and its friends and partners. Towards improving our collective response to contingencies, the maiden HADR-themed IONS maritime exercise, the IMEX 22, was conducted in March this year, with 4 IONS navies and observers from 16 IONS nations participating. In response to national level contingencies, our ships and aircraft were deployed for many search and rescue operations, including rescuing fishermen in distress, locating an ill-fated Pavan Hans helicopter of Mumbai, and flood relief operations in Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. Towards fostering integration of efforts between all maritime security stakeholders, we conducted the 3rd edition of the large-scale coastal defense exercise, Sea Vigil, which saw participation from 9 coastal states, 4 union territories, and multiple central and state government agencies. This synergy was also demonstrated during 9 successful anti-narcotic operations, which resulted in the Indian Navy intercepting drugs worth nearly 8,000 crore rupees this year. As a cohesive force, we have been proactive in all spheres. Organizationally, the Navy inducts men and women from across the nation, which is a testimony to Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat. Over the last 5 years, we have inducted 28,558 sailors from nearly all states and union territories of India. This cohesiveness is also evident as the Navy and the armed forces are implementing the transformational Agnipath scheme, which not only brings down the average age of our services, but also enhances our combat readiness and operational effectiveness. The first batch of Agniveers have joined our premier sailors training base, INS Chilka, commencing 21st November this year. Earlier in October, the Navy had notified opening of many seagoing branches, cadres and specializations, including special forces, diving, and hydrography to women. And in continuation of this policy, as part of the Agnipath scheme, the Navy is inducting women sailors who are now eligible for entry into 29 trades, including seagoing branches. And as we speak, 341 women have already reported for training. For militaries across the world, one of the best indicators of their josh and morale is a ceremonial military parade. And it was indeed a proud moment for Team Navy during Republic Day 22, as we were awarded the service's Best Marching Contingent trophy. The highest military honor for any armed forces unit is the award of the President's Standard and Colors. This year, the award to 22nd Missile Vessel Squadron and INS Valsura aptly demonstrated this recognition and highlighted our efforts of being a cohesive force. The Navy conducted the Indian Navy Quiz, Think You, an endeavor to foster maritime consciousness amongst our youth. The quiz accorded us a wonderful opportunity to engage with bright and enthusiastic students from over 6,432 schools across the country. It was also an effort to awaken the maritime Indian that we believe resides deep within all our citizens. The Navy's welfare organization, NAVA, was renamed this year to Navy Welfare and Wellness Association. The gender-neutral name highlighted our efforts towards community development. Additionally, NAVA's initiatives such as early intervention centers and SSB mentoring for naval wards are fostering greater awareness amongst the naval community. While all these initiatives facilitated greater cohesiveness internally, externally too, we remained engaged with friendly foreign countries to shape a favorable maritime environment. Successful conduct and participation in 18 bilateral and multilateral exercises provided extensive interactions at sea, while 50 maritime partnership exercises spanning a wide swath around the world aided in enhancing our interoperability. Similarly, through 4 coordinated patrols and 12 EEZ surveillance missions, we were able to address common challenges in our immediate neighborhood as we sought regional solutions to regional problems. 6 hydrographic surveys undertaken for our friends in these waters have served to strengthen our trust and cohesiveness with our valuable partners. Our initiatives like the Goa Maritime Symposium, the IONS Preparatory Workshop, and the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue, as well our participation in international events such as the Western Pacific Naval Symposium in Japan, the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, or the CPAR Conference in Australia, to name a few, have all aided in developing convergences with friends and partners. Conduct of the 11th edition of Milan 22 at Visakhapatnam witnessed participation from 39 countries and drew wide acclaim. Further, the Information Fusion Center at Gurugram has established itself as the hub of maritime security information in the IOR through white shipping exchange agreements with 24 countries and 1 multinational construct. International liaison officers from 11 countries have already joined the center, and more are likely to join shortly. To further strengthen information exchange, we have obtained sanction for the National Maritime Domain Awareness, or the NMDA project, which aims to integrate and share information amongst 7 Government of India ministries and more than 15 other agencies. We pursued future-proofing through sustained commitment towards Make in India and AatmaNirbharta. All 29 ships and submarines commissioned into the Navy over the last 7 years have been built in India. Further, of the 45 ships and submarines currently under construction, 43 are being built at Indian shipyards, and these include the P-15 Bravo destroyers or the P-17 Alpha stealth frigates. Out of the 6 submarines of the Scorpene class being built in India, 4 have already been commissioned, while the 5th, Vagir, will soon be. We have obtained acceptance of necessity, AON, for 75 projects. Of these, 89% of cases by value are for indigenous development, translating into rupees 2,14,122 crores being plowed back into our economy. Unveiling of 75 challenges through sprint at the Swavlamban Seminar earlier this year was a step in the right direction and has witnessed overwhelming response from the industry. Over 1,100 proposals were received and 333 firms and MSMEs were shortlisted. 118 firms were declared winners in the Disc 7 Sprint and Prime challenges. Some of the capabilities we seek to induct are as shown on the screen, like a firefighting bot and an autonomous target, amongst others. While the Navy remained a combat-ready, credible, cohesive, and future-proof force, we also contributed significantly to nation-building, or Rashtra Nirman, in many ways. In this regard, while I have briefly touched upon aspects related to Sagar, AatmaNirbhar Bharat, and Nari Shakti, the Navy has also been proactively engaged in numerous other initiatives as well, as shown on the screen. I will cover just a few of them. Startup India has been a specific focus area, and in the last year, we supported, funded, and handheld more than 35 startup and MSMEs for various projects towards developing niche technologies or products for the Navy. We also participated in the Defense India Startup Challenge DISC through IDEX, wherein 19 problem statements are currently being progressed through 24 startups. Similarly, towards the Digital India Initiative, the Navy has taken great strides through implementation of the Naval Communication Network program, providing seamless communication and delivery of digital services to naval bases across the country. We made significant progress in implementation of the Government e-Market, or the GEM initiative. In the financial year 21-22, we not only achieved the annual target of rupees 532 crores, but exceeded it by almost twice that much. Our thrust on Digital India has been across various spheres, some of which are shown on the screen. The Indian Naval Digital Library, for instance, is also a key enabler in making the Indian Navy a learning organization. We've also been proactive in driving Skill India. The Navy has concluded MOUs with numerous leading companies, some of which are shown on the screen, to harness the resident potential amongst retiring veterans. At the same time, we have also focused on upgrading our niche training institutes to Center of Excellence. Recently, INS Shivaji at Lonavala was accorded recognition as a Center of Excellence in the field of marine engineering by the Government of India's Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, a first of its kind achievement for any military organization. A landmark MOU was also concluded in June between the Director General Shipping and the Indian Navy towards recognizing Indian naval training through award of a certificate of competence, facilitating transition from the Navy into the merchant marine. Apart from these distinct contributions, the Navy is deeply committed to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan as well. Guided by the Honorable Prime Minister's assurance at the One Ocean Summit 22 for clearing plastic waste from the seas, the Indian Navy in the past year committed over 200 ship days and has separate action plans for cleanup at sea and in harbour, wherein cumulatively we have cleared over 10,000 kgs of plastic waste. To reduce our carbon footprint, we have set ourselves an ambitious target of planting 75 lakh trees across various naval stations. Apart from this, we are also actively pursuing solar energy for our bases and are replacing 1.35 lakh conventional lights with LEDs. The past year has also been observed as the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Review of the Indian Navy's fleets by our Supreme Commander, the Honorable President, was an apt commemoration of 75 years of the Navy's service to the nation. In this Mahotsav, we also deployed 7 of our ships to proudly hoist the Tiranga across 6 continents on 15th August this year, serving as valuable signaling to underscore our credibility in the region and across the world. A vignette of various other activities related to Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav are now shown on the screen. The exhibition of a monumental national flag at Mumbai was inspirational in many ways for our citizens. A few other initiatives included a digital symposium of the Indian Navy and 75 years of nation building, performances by the Naval Band, an all-women mountaineering expedition, etc. The culmination of the grueling 1500 kilometers marathon, which we witnessed a short while ago, involved 5 athletes running a marathon every day for 35 days continuously, while almost 20,000 others, which included students, veterans, and local enthusiasts, joining in on different days. This, ladies and gentlemen, epitomizes our unwavering focus on physical fitness, which is also reflected in Khelo India, where our efforts have borne fruit and also brought India accolades on the international stage. During the 22nd Commonwealth Games, our sportsmen won 2 gold, 1 silver, and 1 bronze medal. Performance of naval sportsmen during the 36th National Games was also noteworthy, where they came away with the highest ever medal haul by naval athletes. Similarly, our performance at the Services Championship has also been a source of inspiration for the entire naval fraternity. Ladies and gentlemen, I have covered the Navy's major activities in the past year, showcasing that we stood poised and prepared to address every challenge. At the same time, while our military preparedness was at the highest levels, the Indian Navy also remained enmeshed with key Government of India initiatives. In a sense, remaining a combat-ready, credible, cohesive, and future-proof force, standing ready in service of the nation, any day, anytime, anywhere. With that, I conclude my presentation. May I now request the Chief of Naval Staff to kindly address the audience.
I'll now just highlight the broad waypoints for the future, what we're looking at in the year ahead, as well as a few more years to come. First and foremost, maintaining a credible deterrence is the task of any armed force, especially the Navy. And to achieve that, we need to be ready to go in harm's way at really short notice. So the Navy is committed to protect, preserve, and promote India's national interests in the maritime domain. And to achieve this, we have the vision of being a combat-ready, credible, cohesive, and future-proof force. And this is the motto that we inspire our personnel to keep in mind at all times in whatever activity they engage in. The recent global events, they amply underscore that we cannot remain dependent on others for our own security requirements. The events in the Russia-Ukraine war have demonstrated this aspect. So therefore, the government has given us very clear guidelines on AatmaNirbhar Bharat, and towards that, one of the commitments that the Navy has made to the top leadership is that we will become Atmanirbhar Navy by 2047, and all our efforts are being focused in this direction. The rapid pace of advancements in technology, there is need for us to not only catch up with the developments, but also to go ahead of the curve, and towards that we have to adopt a pole vaulting approach, and this is being pursued with great passion, and we are trying to adopt niche and disruptive technologies. You just saw the sprint challenge, which is called supporting, it's an anagram, and when you expand it, it is supporting pole vaulting in R&D through IDEX, NIO and TDAC, which are the sub organizations that have been created to support the indigenization initiatives and our progress towards Atmanirbharta. So we hope to seamlessly meld the various aspects of innovation, indigenization and self-reliance into getting the requisite technology as well as the capability that the Navy wants to be a future-proof force. In terms of physical resources, we are well aware that it is not possible to get all the resources that you require to all the imaginable challenges that you can face, and being an aspirational nation, we know that the budget has to be balanced against the requirements of development, against the requirements of social commitments, against the requirements of other infrastructure requirements and so on. So our focus in the Navy is to ensure that every rupee that is given to us is utilized to the health to ensure that it translates into capability development and combat readiness. So both aspects, that is budget and combat readiness, also are increasingly being looked at jointly, and that brings me to the aspects of jointmanship. As a Navy, we are convinced that the way forward is through jointness, and the Navy is fully committed to jointmanship, jointness and integration, and in a cohesive manner looking at how to optimize resources. The late General Bipin Rawat had laid the foundations for increased synergy between the three services, and the present CDS, General Anil Chauhan, has also provided renewed impetus towards the same. We are working upon ensuring that we achieve greater jointness, cohesion and subsequent integration in the way we plan and the way we operate. A lot of work is happening in the aspect of developing the theatre commands. Discussions are underway. The Navy is also instituted a trophy each at the Sailors Training Establishment NS Chilka for the best women Agnivir in the name of late General Rawat, and similarly a trophy has been instituted in the name of General Rawat at the Naval War College as well. So we just want to highlight that this is one of the aspects of jointness that we wanted to inculcate, the spirit of jointness amongst men as well as the officers. As far as the inspiring initiatives are concerned, we have taken to heart the punch print by the Honorable Prime Minister, and we are working on it to ensure that we live up to all five of them, particularly the one on Gulami ki Mansikta se Mukti. In this regard, we are reviewing all our rules, regulations, processes, SOPs, our traditions, etc., to ensure that we wean away completely from the colonial vestiges and ancient practices which have got no relevance in today's context. There is also increasing recognition of the importance of and the vast potential which is resident in the oceans around us, particularly the blue economy. Currently, we are harnessing it at about 4% of the GDP, and there is definitely room for improving it and harnessing much more from the oceans. Similarly, our dependence on the trade and energy lines and the scope for enhanced maritime connectivity as well. So there is greater emphasis and acknowledgement of the criticality of maritime security. If you remember, the Honorable Prime Minister had chaired a meeting on maritime security when India was at the chair of the UN Security Council recently. And as India grows, the maritime interests and the investments will also expand proportionately. So this will automatically translate into expansion of the tasking of the Navy, and our responsibilities as well as the operational footprint will need to increase in a commensurate manner to ensure that we meet the requirements of the nation of protecting, preserving and promoting the national interest in the maritime domain. So our endeavor, therefore, in the region is to be a preferred security partner and also to be the first responder in case of any crisis, which is facilitated by our mission-based deployments. And therefore, the Navy will continue to be guided by Saga, the doctrine of Saga by our Honorable Prime Minister, which is security and growth for all in the region. And as our Honorable EM had said, India does not intend to grow separately. We intend to grow together with all the other countries in the region. And therefore, building bonds of friendship and operational cohesion with like-minded nations across the Indo-Pacific is something we are focused on, and in every operational endeavor and interaction that we undertake, we are very clear that we need to interact and build trust and cooperation as well as coordination with the like-minded countries in the region. So these are some of the lines of effort that the Navy is committed to follow so that we will remain a combat-ready, credible, cohesive and future-proof force. So now, before I take on any questions, I must compliment the media for efforts in kindling maritime awareness across the length and breadth of our country, and for keeping our fellow countrymen informed well about the developments in the maritime domain, as well as educating them about the Indian Navy and what we do at sea. And lastly, I wish to convey the Navy's eternal gratitude to our veterans, some of them who are present here as well, who sailed these waters much before us. They stood firm at the helm of the Navy, and whose efforts are seen today in an eminently capable, powerful, reliable and maritime force which serves the nation with pride and strength. So thank you for your time. Jai Hind. I am now willing to take on questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll commence with the Q&A session. I'll request you to wait for the mic to come to you and ask one question at a time. Mr. Ajit Dubey.
Sir, this is Ajit Dubey from ANI, sir. Sir, wanted to ask you, these 341 women cadets have been selected as Agniveers. They are undergoing training. What will they train for, sir? Would they be once they are inducted, would they be performing the same duties as the sailors? Would they be like going on ships? And secondly, sir, in recent past, we have seen there was a Chinese research.
I'll request you to restrict to
sir,
one question.
I'll just give you. Sir, there was a Chinese research vessel in Sri Lanka, sir, and it was stationed there around the time the Vikrant was getting inducted. Then again, one more Chinese research vessel has entered the Indian Ocean region, and it's expected to be close to Indian waters.
So we'll
soon.
take on that question in the next round. I'll request you to stick to one question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'll answer the question on the Agniveer. You're right, we have inducted 341 women Agniveers now. As I said, this is the first time women are being inducted in the ranks. I want to tell you that we are not inducting women, separately. They are being inducted in the same manner as their male counterparts. It's a uniform method of selection. They undergo similar, tests, whether it's physical endurance and etc. And our aim is that they perform the same job as what is expected. They will be deployed on ships, they will be deployed on air bases, they will be deployed on aircraft. So they will be trained for everything the way a normal sailor so far is being trained. There is going to be no difference in the training. So we see that it will be looking at being a gender neutral force where we only look at the capability of the individual and what he can do for the service, he or she can do for the service.
Sir, the Chinese research vessel part, sir, what is the purpose of that vessel in close to, and what is the Navy going to do about it, sir?
There are a lot of Chinese ships which operate in the Indian Ocean region. We have a presence of about anything between 4 to 6 PLA Navy ships. Then we have some research vessels which operate. There are a large number of Chinese fishing vessels as also which operate in the Indian Ocean region. So we as the resident maritime power in the Indian Ocean region, we keep a close watch on all the developments. There are also a large number of other extra-regional forces which are present here. Nearly 60 odd extra-regional forces are always present in the Indian Ocean region. So you are aware that it's a vital region where there is fair amount of large amount of trade which transits. There is energy flows that happen through this region. So therefore it's an important region, and there are extra-regional forces which are present here. Our job as a Navy is to see that the India's interests in the maritime domain are protected. So towards this we keep a close watch, we track them, and we see that they do not undertake any activity that is inimical to our interests. Thank you.
Mr. Siddhant Bul.
Siddhant from Beyond. My question to you is, how do you see the role of Quad in the Indo-Pacific? Do you see Quad having a military dimension as well?
See, Quad is just a coming together of like-minded nations, which has been elaborated quite well by our Honorable External Affairs Minister time and again. It is a coming together of nations which have of democracies which have similar values, and we look at aspects like combating providing humanitarian assistance, disaster relief. The pandemic was one such incident where a lot of cooperation and coordination had happened to support the other countries in the region. So it is not an alliance, it's not a military treaty or anything like that. It is purely a coming together of nations who got similar interests in ensuring that we benefit from close cooperation with each other in exchanging of ideas, in exchanging of capabilities that we have, and so on.
Ms. Uma Siddiqui.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is, I just want to know...
Ma'am, you will have to switch on the mic.
Yeah? What is the status of the drones, Predator drones that we were wanting to buy from General Atomics? Has it, the news says that it has been shelved or it has been put on hold because of AatmaNirbhar initiative. Any update on that, please?
No, the case for 30 hail UAVs is under process. It is reached a stage where we are just discussing whether the numbers need to be rationalized or whether we need to stick to the same numbers, etc. So it is under process. It has not been closed. The case is on, and the Navy has had the experience of leasing 2 of these UAVs, hail UAVs over the last year and a half. We found great value from it. It provides much reach in terms of surveillance. It has assisted us in maintaining good surveillance over the Indian Ocean region. So therefore, we have gained experience from the operations of this hail, and we are confident that when we induct this, it will provide great value addition to all the 3 services.
Mr. Chandrasekhar.
Good morning, sir. Chandrasekhar from Delhi Defence Review. In the recent past, we've had these coastal exercises with the states bordering the coast. Is the Navy going to be looking at somehow collectively empaneling the fishing vessels that are operating? And what are the terms of, how is the Navy looking at dissuading the Chinese in the Indian Ocean? The Chinese fishing vessels, sir.
See, as I said, there is a presence of Chinese fishing vessels in the Indian Ocean. It's not just in the Indian Ocean. Chinese fishing vessels are there all over the world. So our job is to keep track as to where they are operating, and whether they are intruding into our EEZ and so on. So when we have a robust surveillance mechanism, the surveillance mechanism is through the AIS, through our ships which do patrol, through aircraft, and also by monitoring through space-based sensors and so on. So we are aware as to where they are operating. We keep a track of it, and we see that they do not intrude into our EZ and sort of do illegal activities within our maritime zones of India.
Ms. Kavita Joshi.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर, मैं कविता जोशी हूँ सर। मैं कविता जोशी हूँ हरिभूमि न्यूज़पेपर से। सर मेरा सवाल आपसे, जो भारतीय नौसेना के 8 पूर्व अधिकारी हैं जिन्हें कतर ने कस्टडी में लिया हुआ है, पकड़ा हुआ है, और इनको पकड़े हुए अभी 90 दिन हो चुके हैं, 3 महीने हो चुके हैं, तो अभी इसको लेकर के ना तो उन्होंने कोई चार्जेस फाइल किए हैं, बस उनको अरेस्ट किया हुआ है। तो सर इसको लेकर क्या नेवी ने भी उनको छुड़ाने के लिए कोई आपने भी एफर्ट किया है, क्योंकि वो आप ही की फैमिली का पार्ट हैं, और उनके जो फैमिली के मेंबर्स हैं, क्या उन्होंने नेवी से कांटेक्ट किया है उनको रिलीज़ करवाने के लिए? आप कोई मैसेज देना चाहेंगे नेवल फैमिलीज़ को, क्योंकि बहुत परेशान हैं लोग और काफ़ी टाइम से ये कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि उनको छोड़ा जाए, लेकिन अभी तक कतर ने कोई कार्रवाई नहीं की है।
देखिए, अब एक बार नेवी ज्वाइन करेंगे तो उसके बाद आप नेवी का फैमिली के मेंबर बन जाते हैं, और जब आप नेवी छोड़ के जाते हैं फिर भी आप नेवी का एक हिस्सा बन के आप रहेंगे। इस केस में हमको पता चला था, जैसे ये इंसिडेंट हुआ तब हमको इन्फॉर्मेशन मिला था, और लगातार हमारी कोशिश रही है कि इसको सॉल्व करने के लिए। तो हमारे देश के जितने इन्वॉल्व्ड एजेंसीज और जितने हाईएस्ट लीडरशिप लेवल्स पे ये प्रॉब्लम को रेस किया हुआ है, और लगातार कोशिश चल रही है और हमें ये उम्मीद है कि इसका सोल्यूशन निकल जाएगा।
Mr. Vishal Thapar.
Good morning, sir, and immediate greetings to you. I am Vishal Thapar from Business World. Sir, you mentioned that the Indian Navy will be an AatmaNirbhar force by 2047. What are the landmarks on the road to AatmaNirbharta by 2047? And how do you visualize this transformation? I mean, you already told us that all the ships and submarines inducted in the last 7 years, they are all Indian, and 43 of the 45 platforms are also being sort of processed on Indian shipyards. So just to repeat my question, what sort of a transformation do you envision, and what are the important significant landmarks on the road to 2047? Thank you, sir.
In the vision that we have, we see all our ships, submarines and aircraft being completely Indian. Okay, so that is the vision we have set for ourselves. That's the promise that we have made. Now, how to work towards it? As far as our combat platforms are concerned, we have three aspects. That is, especially for ships and submarines, float, move, and fight. These are three components, distinct components of the maritime assets. So, as far as float component is concerned, we are almost above 95%. So that is, we make the steel, we have the capability to do the welding, joining them together, and all aspects for the float component are there with us. As far as move component is concerned, we are at about 60 to 65%. So essentially, what is required is the prime movers or the engines need to be made. Whether it's gas turbines, whether it is steam turbines, whether it's a diesel engine. So this is the one aspect that needs to be addressed to achieve nearly 100% in the move component. We already started making propellers and shafting, etc. in India. The third aspect is about the fight component. The fight component, we are today, as of now, at about 50%. And a lot of effort is on already to ensure that we have all the armament, the ammunition, the missiles, the missile systems, the radars, etc. being developed indigenously, and we are hopeful that we'll achieve success in that as well. Coming to the aviation part of it and the submarines, you are aware we have a indigenous submarine building program. The 75 India is 75 is nearing completion. We have 2 more boats to commission, which will happen in a couple of years. And the 75 India program is also being taken forward so that we develop the indigenous expertise in the country to design and develop submarines as well. The third part of it is, of course, the aviation element. Now, as far as aviation is concerned, we are looking at we've had the LCA Navy project, and from that project we have gained substantially about aspects related to operations from the deck. That is, the tail hook challenges, the strengthening requirements for undercarriage, fly-by-wire requirements, sensors, and so on. So some of the key aspects have already been gained from that. Now this is helping us in developing the next generation fighters to operate from the deck, which is something called the twin engine deck-based fighter, which is going to be developed along with ADA. We are preparing the draft cabinet note for that, and we are sure that we are confident that by 2026 we should have the prototype. Maybe it might get delayed by 6 months or 1 year, and thereafter production by 2032. So this is the broad plan, and therefore we are fairly confident that by 2047 we will have all these things in place. The other aspect is of the human transformation. The Agniveer scheme will be is just started. It will be in full swing by then, and we will be more tech savvy Navy with the personnel of less than 26 years contributing to nearly 48% of the Navy's strength. So we'll be a youthful, agile and transformed force as well. So this is what we envision, and this is where we are, we are working to reach.
Mr. Mukesh Kaushik.
Sir, Mukesh Kaushik from Dainik Bhaskar. Sir, recently China conducted a conclave of littoral states of Indian Ocean region, and we are hearing that 19 states took part in it. The only state which was not littoral was China host itself, and India was not invited. So do you think that China was having any geographical, moral or valid right to hold such a conclave of littoral states of Indian Ocean region? Or was it yet another attempt to appropriate Indian Ocean region which China has been doing in the past?
We were aware of this this aspect that you mentioned. It was actually a virtual conference which they held. Now you can have a virtual conference of any number of people sitting anywhere. So it was just a virtual conference. It was related largely to trade and export-import aspects. So I don't see too much of a security dimension in this.
Mr. Rahul Singh.
Sir, Rahul Singh from Hindustan Times. So if you could give us an update on IAC-2, you said Vikrant was a watershed event for the Navy. What is happening on IAC-2? And a related question on what is happening on the deck-based interim arrangement for buying deck-based fighters for Vikrants.
See, IAC-2, we are still working on, what size it should be and what are the capabilities that are desired, etc. But right now we have put a hold on it because we have just commissioned the Vikrant. We are quite happy with the ship, the way the ship performed in the trials. So we are also contemplating of whether a lot of expertise has been gained in building this IAC-1 in Cochin shipyard. A lot of ancillary industries have come up, and this is really AatmaNirbhar Bharat in full bloom. So we are also currently examining whether we should look at a repeat order of the IAC instead of IAC-2 of IAC-1 instead of going for an IAC-2, to capitalize on what is the expertise that is available in the country and how we can plow back into the economy. So this is all right now at discussion stage. We are not yet firmed up our mind, nor have we taken it to the government. And as far as the fighters for deck-based fighters are concerned, I explained to you already the twin-engine deck-based fighter program. But that program, as you are aware, will come in only by 2032 and beyond. There's a gap now because the MiG-29K are limited in number. There are not much supplies forthcoming, new ones forthcoming, etc. So therefore, we are looking at an interim solution. So towards this, there are two deck-based fighter aircraft which we feel were suitable. We have done the trials of the Rafale maritime version as well as the F-18s from the shore-based test facility at Goa. The OEMs had brought the aircraft and done the trials. They have submitted the trial report, and the trial reports are under evaluation. And thereafter, we'll take a call as to what is in our best interest.
Mr. Abhishek Balla.
So good afternoon. So in your opening remarks, you mentioned in context of the new Naval Ensign that a lot of colonial traditions are under review. So can you elaborate what are these practices that you're looking to change, and what has prompted the Navy to bring these changes?
What has prompted the Navy. In fact, I'm wondering why we took such a long time to change the ensign. But the direction from the top leadership were very clear. You would have heard the Prime Minister talk of the Panch Pran on 15th of August this year. So we strongly support the view that we have to get away from this Gulamiki Mansikta. Therefore, we are working towards it. And as we examined, we found that many of our rules, regulations, they are all archaic. Many of it has been, devised, around the time of our independence, and many of it have not got reviewed or even for its relevance today. There are so many such practices, so many such terms which are being used. So in the Navy, we have something called the CNS discussion forum, where the rank and file can communicate in this forum and project their ideas, their views. If they feel that something has lost its relevance, it can be put on this forum. So we had asked for some suggestions, and we have received a large number of proposals with regard to changing the nomenclature, stopping some practices, and so on. So therefore, all this is being examined, and we want to execute all this in a time-bound manner.
Ms. Poonam Pandey.
सर, मैं पूनम पांडे हूँ नवभारत टाइम्स से। अभी एक्सरसाइज सी विजिल पूरी हुई है। सर, जब हमने शुरू की थी एक्सरसाइज और अब में कितना फ़र्क आया है? क्या क्या चीज़ें थी जो उस समय आपने आइडेंटिफाई की थी कि वो गैप भरना है, लूप होल्स जो भी आपको मिले, और अब में अगर हम 2-3 साल में देखें तो क्या क्या चेंजेस आए जो इस सी विजिल एक्सरसाइज में हमने देखे कि वो कमियां दूर हो गई हैं?
देखिए, ये सी विजिल एक्सरसाइज जो है ये कोस्टल सिक्योरिटी के लिए होता है, और ये नेशनल लेवल पे है एक्सरसाइज। और ये अभी जो हमने किया है वो 3rd वर्जन है। 2019 में स्टार्ट किया था, उसके बाद 2021 में हुआ, और दिस इज इन 22 वी हैव डन द 3rd एक्सरसाइज। इसमें इसकी जो महत्वपूर्ण चीज़ ये है कि ये जो 9 कोस्टल स्टेट्स और 4 यूनियन टेरिटरी जो है, उनके जो मैरिटाइम फोर्सेस और जितने एजेंसीज हैं, जैसे नेवी, कोस्ट गार्ड, फिशरीज, कस्टम्स, सभी एक साथ मिलके एक एक्सरसाइज में पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं। तो मैरिटाइम डोमेन में सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम में है कि हम लोग साइलोस में काम करते हैं, मतलब सभी अपना अपना काम करते हैं, उसमें ज़्यादा कोऑर्डिनेशन और इंटरेक्शन में थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम है। सो जैसे हम ये एक्सरसाइज करते हैं, हम ये रिजॉल्व करते हैं कि जितना डिफ़िकल्टीज है उसको धीरे धीरे उसको सॉल्व करें। अदर चैलेंजेस ऑफ डोमेन अवेयरनेस, क्योंकि इतने सारे फिशिंग बोट्स हैं, इतने सारे मर्चेंट शिप्स हैं, और कोई अपना डिटेल्स ट्रांसमिट करता है इस पे, कोई नहीं ट्रांसमिट करता है। सो इफ़ यू सी द प्रोग्रेस दैट हैज हैपेंड, एक तो हमने वो जो आईमैक और इंटरनेशनल फ्यूजन सेंटर जो है वो सेटअप किया हुआ है। हर स्टेट में जॉइंट ऑपरेशन सेंटर और इंफॉर्मेशन सेंटर वगैरह सेटअप किया हुआ है, which is manned by the fisheries, by Coast Guard, by Navy, by Customs, all the state police and so on. So each exercise when we do, we gain 2-3 things. एक तो we find out कि हमारा जो coastal security system है वो कितना effective है, और दूसरा as to what improvements we can do. तो जैसे हमारा जो कोस्टल रेडार चेन्स है उसमें वी फाउंड आउट देयर आर सम गैप्स, सो द फेज 2 ऑफ द कोस्टल रेडार चेन हैज नाउ बीन सैंक्शनड एंड इज बीइंग वर्कड अपॉन, एंड नाउ द गवर्नमेंट हैज अप्रूव्ड द NMDA नेशनल मैरिटाइम डोमेन अवेयरनेस प्रोजेक्ट, so which will now have all the agencies plugging into it, be it customs, be it fisheries, be it Ministry of Earth Sciences. So all the inputs from all these ministries as well as from all the other agencies which are involved, all of them will give the data which will get centrally collated into actionable information for the forces which are required to take action. So, so there is a constant learning value, and whenever we do these exercises, improvements come out. The latest exercise, the debrief is yet to happen, but it will get collated, and based upon the findings, we will take the next step forward.
Mr. Shailesh.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. I'm Shailesh from National Defence. Recently, China has launched its autonomous drone mothership, Zhuhai Yun. What kind of challenges it may have thrown to Indian Navy, and does Indian Navy require change in naval doctrine to be in place so that it can cope up with the future warfare? Because recently we have also seen that the Iranian Navy had captured the US sail drone, which is autonomous vessel. So this Chinese vessel would be having drones which would be able to operate land, sea and in air, and could be a research vessel which can also turn a military vessel as per experts. So I want to understand your perspective on this, sir.
The Navy has unveiled a roadmap in 2021 in October by the Honorable Raksha Mantri on unmanned systems. So this happened that time, and then this year during the Swavlamban Seminar itself, we have also unveiled the requirements for the future for the unmanned systems, the technology that we are looking at for the Navy. So this also has been disseminated to the industry. So they are working on it. So we are looking at unmanned, not just aircraft, unmanned surface vessel, unmanned underwater vessels, and so on. Fair amount of work is already in progress. We have also, achieved some success in developing unmanned underwater vessels as well. And drones, you are aware, substantial progress has been made, and we have now tested them for operations from moving platforms at sea. So we are working on the doctrine of manned-unmanned teaming. While unmanned systems are there, and we have been operating unmanned systems like the UAVs for quite some time now, and we have adequate expertise on that. But we are looking at unmanned aerial combat vehicles, and similarly the surface as well as underwater vehicles also will be capable of not just surveillance but carrying out missions including combat. So this is the future, and the Swavlamban Seminar, some of the challenges involved the unmanned systems and as well as manned-unmanned teaming. So this is being progress, and as I said, the roadmap has already been promulgated. The requirements have been given to the industry as well. We are hopeful that we will make headway in this. Now, as to how to exploit them and how to fight the future war, that is what we are studying, and we'll come out with the necessary changes in the way we fight.
Mr. Snehesh Philip.
Sir, Snehesh from the print. Sir, on the theaterization, what efforts are on? If you could give us an update on where do we stand as of now, and how soon can this be implemented, sir?
See, theaterization is something that will that'll take a finite amount of time. Earlier, various studies were ordered for the three services with regard to the theatre commands. Now, all those studies have been done and they have been submitted. Then, in between, unfortunately, we had the demise of General Rawat, and therefore, while the work continued, decisions could not be arrived at probably. But now, with the new CDS in place, discussions are on with the services on the basic principles of theaterization and as to how we go forward. So work is on, and we are hopeful of seeing progress in the months ahead.
Mr. Manish Kumar Jha.
Sir, this is Manish Kumar Jha from Financial Express. My question regarding the capability gaps. First, since 2004, we're talking about 24 minesweeping vessels, which is so critical for the safety of boats, port, and also the marine trade of India. Where we stand now in terms of those acquisition, and also this RFI issued, are we going ahead in that direction, or are we talking about AatmaNirbhar Bharat in this minesweeping acquisition process, which is so critical? And second, where we are now as far as P-75I is concerned for having new submarine and air independent propulsion system, could you highlight these two aspects, sir? Thank you.
See, as far as minesweeping is concerned, we had worked on the QR some time back. So now there has been a rethink. Instead of just going for pure minesweeping vessels, we are looking at the new concept that is being followed worldwide, using drones, using autonomous vehicles, and so on. So we are looking at a new concept of a mothership with autonomous systems. A mothership with autonomous systems which can do the mission. So there's been a change in thinking, and that's what we are working on as of now. And as far as the P-75 India is concerned, you'd be aware that it's a complex type of a process. The strategic partnership model. It's a new way of doing business, where we want to develop indigenous capability, we want to develop capability in our private industry, and so on. So there are a lot of challenges, and the nuances are being worked out. So there has been a little bit of delay, and because the Indian IACs or the Indian applicant companies, as well as the OEMs who are joining up with them, their apprehensions have to be addressed, and it's a new area for the people involved in procurement, as well as the people who are participating, that is the Indian applicant companies as well as OEM. So there are challenges. So these challenges are getting addressed. They had a number of queries. So those queries were duly processed, and their concerns were addressed. And we are hopeful now it will go forward in a few months.
Mr. Sudhir Ranjan.
Sir, Sudhir Ranjan from the Bloomberg. I wanted to ask you, sir, given the Russia's war in Ukraine, what kind, if any, shortages of spares you are facing, and what kind of measures, therefore, you will have to take or have taken to address these?
See, today, not just the war in Ukraine, but anywhere there is a conflict, the supply chain will get disrupted. This is a fact, because the entire world is interconnected in many ways. So there have been challenges, but we are fortunate that this push for AatmaNirbhar Bharat has been taken as a policy directive from the government, and we are now working to make sure that we don't land up with any strategic vulnerability in the Navy. We are finding solutions for most of it, and as of now, we do not have any major challenges.
So we'll have the last question now, Mr. Neeraj Rajput.
सर, नीरज राजपूत, एबीपी न्यूज़ से। सर, मेरा सवाल ये है कि हम लोग लगातार बात कर रहे हैं इंडियन ओशन रीजन की, चाइना का जिस तरह से इन्फ्लुएंस लगातार बढ़ रहा है इस रीजन में, और अभी जो हाल ही में पेंटागन की रिपोर्ट आई है जिसमें कहा गया कि जिबूती में जो बेस है चाइना का, वहाँ पर नेवल एक्टिविटीज़ भी बहुत बढ़ गई हैं। तो सर, हम लोग किस तरह से इंडियन नेवी जो है काउंटर करने की कोशिश करेगी चाइना के इस बढ़ते इन्फ्लुएंस को? क्या हम भी इस तरह की किसी फ्रेंडली फॉरेन कंट्री में अपना बेस देख रहे हैं या देख सकते हैं, उसके ज़रिए हम लोग काउंटर कर सकते हैं?
देखिए, ये जो आप इशू बोल रहे हैं वो सिर्फ नेवी का इशू नहीं है, ये इसका जो रिस्पॉन्स है वो होल ऑफ नेशन या होल ऑफ गवर्नमेंट टाइप ऑफ रिस्पॉन्स होता है। तो इसके बारे में हमारे जितने कंसर्न मिनिस्ट्रीज हैं वो सब एक्शन ले रहे हैं। नेवी की तरफ से हम जितने पॉलिसी से गवर्नमेंट के वो हम सपोर्ट करते हैं। तो इसके लिए जैसे मैं बोला था, हमारे जो पॉलिसी है सागर, सिक्योरिटी एंड ग्रोथ फॉर ऑल इन द रीजन, उसको हम एकदम पूरी तरह इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए नेवी का कोशिश कंटिन्यूस रही है। इसके बारे में जितने हमारे इंडियन ओशन कंट्रीज हैं उनके साथ कंटिन्यूस इंटरेक्शन है। हम कैसे इंटरेक्ट करते हैं, हम एक तो उनके साथ स्टाफ टॉक्स या नेवी टू नेवी इंटरेक्शन होता है। दूसरी चीज़ उनको हम सपोर्ट करते हैं कैपेबिलिटी डेवलपमेंट में, फिर उनका कैपेसिटी भी बढ़ाते हैं, मतलब कोई इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर या जहाज या हेलीकॉप्टर वगैरह हम गिफ्ट करते हैं या लीज करते हैं, उनको ट्रेनिंग देते हैं कैसे ऑपरेट करने के लिए। फिर उनका जो मैरिटाइम डोमेन अवेयरनेस के लिए उनको रडार चाहिए या कोई अदर नेटवर्क वगैरह चाहिए, वो भी हम फैसिलिटेट करते हैं। फिर उनका जो पर्सनल है उनका ट्रेनिंग के लिए हम उसको भी उनको ट्रेनिंग स्लॉट्स देते हैं हमारे ट्रेनिंग स्टाफ में। तो उनके जो अफसर और जवान जो है वो यहाँ आके ट्रेन करके वापस जाते हैं। तो कई तरह से हमारा इंटरेक्शन कंटिन्यूस रहता है। पिछले करीब 15 साल में करीब 15,000 personnel have been trained from our neighborhood। तो इससे क्या है काफ़ी हमारा इंटरेक्शन बढ़ जाता है और अंडरस्टैंडिंग बढ़ जाता है, और इससे एक ट्रस्ट बन जाता है बिटवीन द कंट्रीज। सो ये नेवी का कोशिश रहती है, और बाकी जो हमारे मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स वगैरह उनका भी काम होता है इसमें, और एक्शन इज बीइंग टेकन इन दिस।
Thank you, sir. So I'll request you can join us for lunch. There are quite a few questions.
Please.
Sir, in conjunction with the question that has been raised by the lady about few veteran officers held in custody in Qatar, I just want to say that not just for this incident, but for all other matters, we as a retired community have been continuously being supported in a most compassionate manner when it relates to our welfare and well-being of this community. So, sir, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record the gratitude of our to our parent service, the Indian Navy. Now, as to coming to this issue, I just want to say that many things it's not possible to come out in the open domain, but I am personally aware this kind of support that Chief of the Naval Staff, his principal staff officers, and everyone who have been so compassionate about this episode, and they have left no stone unturned to pursue this matter and to seek early release or settlement of this case. And I would like to share here that our Chief of the Naval Staff has approached every possible level at the Government of India, and the latest information available is that India has been granted those who are held, they have been granted consular assistance at the behest of our External Affairs Ministry. So thank you very much, sir, for all this very kind support to us.
Thank you, sir. Now I request all of you to join us for lunch.
हमारी नेवी में एक सेइंग है कि सर्विंग नेवी इज ट्रांसिट नेवी, मतलब यू कीप मूविंग, एंड वेटरन नेवी इज परमानेंट नेवी. सो बिग हैंड टू द वेटरन्स. या प्लीज माइक.
Atmanirbharta is becoming almost a slogan, and we find that there seems to be a tacit assumption that unless you become 100% self-sufficient, you're in some way short of your goals. Now, no military in the world is ever 100% self-sufficient. We all know that, sir. So rather than say that we had in float, move and fight and so on, you give the things each year, is there a target that we have for each of these three aspects of shipbuilding? Or are we always going to be short because at the end of it, no country is ever 100% in shipbuilding?
Yeah, you're right. There will always be some things you will have to get from others because you are in an interdependent world. So there will be some aspects or some parts maybe you will, or some equipment maybe you will have to depend upon from someone who makes it better or someone who makes it cheaper. But the key is that, is it a very vital component? The most vital component should be made in our country. Okay? So it cannot happen that we do not have an engine, we do not have, a weapon system, etc. So definitely, weapons need to be made in India. Some components of that may come from outside, but so long as it's not a key component and it will be available even in times of a conflict, then that is acceptable. So that is the thought process of the government. Everybody is aware that it is not possible to make 100% everything in just one place. But there should not be any key vulnerability. That has to be avoided. So therefore, at the component level, if there are say chips, etc., which are which are required for a particular system, but they are commercially available and there is no fear of an embargo or that not being available, then of course we can use them. There is no problem. So we are aware of this, and that is how we are working towards it.